This week's Newsmakers is Representative Peter Hoekstra, Congressman from Michigan, and the ranking Republican on the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, joining us from Capitol Hill today on Thursday. And then also in the studio with me is Tim Starks, and he is the intelligence reporter with CQPolitics.com, and Scott Shane, intelligence reporter with the New York Times. Tim Starks has the first question. Go ahead.
Hi, Congressman. You've written in the last week about interrogation methods. It's been a big subject in the news. I want to ask you to respond to some of the pragmatic arguments about the methods that you've defended the Bush administration using. That is, that maybe they produce some leads, but they also produce some unreliable information and produced a cost to our reputation abroad. How do you respond to those arguments?
Well, I would say that in the intelligence community, you're always worried about the information that you collect. Getting inaccurate or false information through intelligence means is nothing new at all. Anytime you collect information through the intelligence community, through any one of the number of different ways that we collect it, what you're always looking for is to find a thread, verify it 2 or 3 different ways to make sure that it's accurate. And many times we find that a thread that we're pulling on accurately or is really bad information. That's nothing new in the intelligence community. That's something that we sort and sift through each and every day, and it really distinguishes a good intelligence community from a bad one. A good intelligence community can tell the difference between good and bad information, and that's, I'm not at all surprised that that would come out of interrogations, regardless of what methods that you use. I think the bottom line on this is that whether you're talking to former Director Tenet, former Director of the CIA, Mike Hayden, Porter Goss, or even the current Director of National Intelligence, they have all said that through this process of enhanced interrogations and sorting through the good from the bad intelligence, we were able to get information that was meaningful to our national security efforts and that helped keep America safe.
Congressman, this is Scott Shane. If I could ask a related question, does it bother you at all that these methods were borrowed from the military's SEER training program, which was created, grew out of a military training program created in the 1950s, based on Chinese communist interrogation methods, which were studied because they had produced false confessions. American pilots who'd been captured after and during these kinds of methods had given false confessions. And in those days, that was called torture. So the program was essentially based on communist torture methods, which were known to have produced false confessions. Isn't that a sort of odd basis on which to build an interrogation program?
Well, I wouldn't say that that's what this interrogation program was built on. I think what this interrogation program was built on was a broad collection of taking a look at how interrogations have been done, how they've been done, how they're done in a law enforcement mechanism here within the United States, how they've been used and administered through other conflicts, through other wars, who used what. And as you went through this whole process, the people that were responsible for developing this regimen of interrogations that were eventually approved and implemented both through the executive branch and in many cases were reviewed by Congress and approved by Congress, that they were then put into effect. I'm not necessarily worried about what technique came from what type of previous use of interrogation. It is whether the interrogations that we were going to put into a program, whether from a legal standpoint we believe that we met U.S. law, and the second thing is whether we believe that they would be effective. And the administration and others that looked at this program, looked at the techniques, reached the conclusion that, number one, they were consistent with U.S. law, and secondly, reached the conclusion that they would be effective in getting information for America.
Congressman, you mentioned that these tactics were reviewed by Congress. There have been some Republicans who said that Democrats who are now complaining about this are being disingenuous because they knew about them then, and they should have spoke out then. But if they would have spoke out then, wouldn't they have been leaking classified information? And what should they have done if they had objections?
Absolutely not. They wouldn't have been leaking classified information, because All of us are in the Intelligence Committee. We are there because we are appointed by our respective leaders. In this case now, the Democrats are there because they've been appointed by the Speaker of the House. I'm there and my Republican colleagues are there because we are appointed by the Minority Leader, Mr. Boehner. I'm not saying that they should have spoken out and gone to the media, but I can tell you that over the last number of years where there has been information that has been provided to me, on occasion I have been concerned. And what I do when I have a concern about information that is provided to me, I go to the person who appointed me to be the chairman or the ranking member. Just recently I went to Leader Boehner about something that I had been briefed on. I knew he had not been briefed on that information. I made the call. I made the decision to go to Mr. Boehner and to talk with him specifically about this, to raise the issues and raise the concerns that I have. He then has the responsibility for making the final call as to whether he will go to the next step, which is bringing it up to the attention of the President of the United States. I think you're well aware of, I think you broke the story a few years ago where I had some concerns about what was going on in the intelligence community and wrote a classified letter to the President of the United States raising my concerns about what was going on. So it's not disingenuous. That's disingenuous. That's exactly why we're on the committee, because our respective leaders hold us accountable for reviewing the information, and if we see something that we are concerned about or that we object to, that it's our responsibility to go to our leadership and raise the issue with them. We are their designees on the Intelligence Committee.
Congressman, could I ask you about the Gang of Four system? In looking back and talking to the people who were briefed, the Gang of Four at that time in 2002, we found wildly varying memories of what they had been told and when they had been told it, and a fairly widespread opinion among both members and staffers that kind of informal Gang of Four system does not work. One of the oddities that we found was that there were some staff members, staff directors, who were briefed in 2002, but the rest of the actual members of those committees weren't briefed on this program until 2006. Isn't that, is there any better way to do this?
I think that there really is a better way to do it. And many of us have brought that up, we brought that up during the Bush administration. We have brought that up I'm sure we will bring it up with the Obama administration, and we have talked already with Director of National Intelligence Blair, and I think we've also had discussions with the CIA Director, Leon Panetta, asking them to review this process. I can also tell you that on certain occasions the Gang of Four has worked very, very well. You may remember a year and a half, 2 years ago when the Israelis took out potentially, as reported, a nuclear facility in Syria. That was a case where the whole process of Gang of Four briefings and these types of things, all worked very, very well. And I think that, again, when you go into a Gang of Four briefing, one of the things and one of the questions that we ask, and we ask among ourselves in the Gang of Four, is it appropriate that this is only a Gang of Four issue, and should there be a broader distribution of the information that we have received? And if we believe that there's a necessity for a broader distribution of the information that we've just received, it's our responsibility to do two things: highlight that to the intelligence community, saying this information needs to be more widely disseminated, and also to go to our leadership and say, we have received classified information. It has been very, very limited. We can't share it with you, but I just want to tell you that I believe that limiting it to the Gang of Four is wrong. And that we need to have a discussion with the Director of National Intelligence and perhaps with the President, that you and other members of Congress should have this information available to you. That is what our leadership, or let's put it this way, that's what my leadership, Speaker Denny Hastert and current Minority Leader John Boehner, have instructed me to do as in the role as the ranking member or the chairman of the Intelligence Committee, to be their eyes and ears to make sure that the intelligence community and the leadership in the intelligence community are doing the appropriate things by my evaluation. And if I disagree, then I need to go to them and raise the issue.
Congressman, question about everyone's obligation here. There's been some debate